All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Animated Deluxe Class Soundwave. I just recently got this figure off of eBay. This has been a figure that I've been kind of interested in for a while. I don't tend to collect most of the animated toys, just because, I really like animated as a cartoon, but, the kind of style of Transformers I'm more into is more that generation style and things that can fit in with that. And obviously, the animated toys are very heavily based on the animated art style, which it doesn't really fit in that well with other figures. But this has always been a toy that I've been really interested in getting. Now, right off the bat, I do want to say, this figure does come with a Laserbeak, which obviously I did not get in this eBay listing, just because finding ones that actually come with Laserbeak really skyrocket the price. And, I kind of wanted to pick this figure up and I found a decent deal. So hopefully I'll be able to get Laserbeak eventually. But, upon release, this came with a Laserbeak that actually turned into a guitar, an electric guitar, which is a really cool take on the whole, Soundwave Laserbeak relationship. But we'll just be taking a look at the actual, core figure here in and of itself. And yeah, I love this vehicle mode for Soundwave. I've always really liked the animated Soundwave design that turns into this like crazy sort of like, blacklight techie Scion type vehicle. I just think it's a really clever, vehicle mode for Soundwave, because for a while they were really trying to find other things that Soundwave could turn into. So like in different shows, he'd either turn into like a weird jet or like a drone like he did in Transformers Prime, or in the case of Transformers Animated, turned into a Scion, which I think is a really cool take on the character. But yeah, no, it's a really nice vehicle mode. I love the kind of like, glow in the dark looking green that they use. It doesn't actually glow in the dark or anything like that, but it gives off that same vibe, which I think is really cool. Rolls pretty nicely, has a nice power logo there on the top. It's a little bit misaligned on my copy, but still pretty cool in gold, and then a gold Decepticon logo, and then kind of some, facsimile of his classic play button things here on the front, which I think is a nice touch. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with a, average size modern deluxe with Kingdom Sideswipe. And I think that looks pretty good. Obviously, once we get to robot mode, they don't really fit in with each other because they're totally different styles. But size-wise, I feel like that works out. And for another, Soundwave vehicle mode comparison, like a rolling vehicle mode, here he is with the old Generations War for Cybertron Deluxe. So you can see what they look like together. Obviously, very different takes here. But yeah, to get on to transformation, he's got some pretty neat stuff going on. First thing you want to do is take this back panel here, this panel on the bottom, which will become the chest plate, and it just hooks in under these sections here. So you just want to untab that and then double hinge it up so it locks into this other piece just like that. Just it makes it a little bit easier to get some of this stuff moving. And then you want to take these sections and then split them, and then take the front bumper and actually flip it around to the underside like this on both sides. It's a little tight, but once you get it going, it's not too bad. And then a really neat trick is on each side like this. You want to take the entire like windshield section here and rotate it around like this, and then rotate it around like this, and then fold this piece up, which was the roof and the windshield, which will actually become his foot in robot mode, which I think is again a really cool little trick there. So it just works like that. And then these panels here, you just kind of want to loosen them up, untab them from the side here, so that you can take this entire section with the back wheels here and untab them from each other, and then fold them down on this armature like this. And these will be the arms. And then you want to take these panels and just kind of straighten them out, kind of extend them a little bit on the like the double hinged elbow there. We can flip out the hand from the inside here. Has a little wavy hand. Just do that on both sides, and then take the back wheels and actually flip them onto the shoulders to be little speakers, which again is another cool touch. Then you want to rotate them around at the waist just to get everything aligned properly. And then a weirdly difficult part of the transformation is you're taking this whole chest piece and double hinging it up. And on mine, this is a really tight joint, somewhat unnecessarily so. So I really have to kind of like wiggle it back and forth to just hinge it up there and then plug it in like that. And then last but not least, just take this little panel and fold it down to reveal his head. And there we have Animated Soundwave in his robot mode. And yeah, definitely looks pretty accurate to how the design looked in the show, which, you know, I like it generally. There's a few things like, oh, I wish it had some sort of shoulder cannon aside from just the speakers. The shape of the head has always been a little bit weird to me, just like with the like really bottom heavy section on the head, but it's fairly accurate to how it was in the show. So definitely, you know, can't complain there. That's more stuff about the design than the actual toy. But yeah, looks pretty good in terms of articulation. The head is on a swivel here. It's again pretty tight joint. Most of the joints on this guy are pretty tight, aside from the knees, which are super floppy loose, unfortunately. And I remember from reviews back in the day that the knees were always a little bit loose. So it's probably something that's fixable, just in terms of like putting, you know, super glue or floor polish in there to tighten up the joint, whichever method you prefer. But it is a little bit annoying that that's the one joint on him that's pretty tight, or pretty, you know, not tight. I guess the head is actually on a ball joint. I just noticed now that it actually has a tiny bit of wiggle back and forth, even though his head is so flat. So you can rotate that around. You can use the panel that it's on to make it look up, but you know, you can't bring it so far up before it looks bad. The shoulders are a little bit limited. They can swivel around like this. Again, creaky joint. It does have a little bit of a hinge that goes in and out only about that far, but then otherwise you're kind of just using the transformation joint, which at a certain point will also make the panel on the head stick up. So a little bit limited there at the shoulders. He's got a double jointed elbow, one hinge, and then a ball joint here. So you can kind of, you know, you don't get a tremendous amount of range, definitely over 90, but, you know, nothing super fantastic, not a full curl or anything. But so, because it's a ball joint, you also get that, you know, bicep swivel, and then the socket that the ball joint is on is also on a swivel. So you get a below the elbow swivel too. It's kind of a shame that his hands can't rotate forward, so that you could actually have like this section of the arm be the thing that's facing forward without, you know, having his hands kind of stick out like that. But whatever. And then the hands can just hinge in and out just like that. Just for transformation, he's got that waist cut, again, very tight. He's got ball joints at the hips, which don't feel too bad. They can get, you know, pretty decent range. And then those ball joints at the knees, like I said, are really loose, but that gives him a thigh swivel, and then, you know, a little under 90 degrees of bend at the knee. And then because of the transformation joint, you can also kind of hinge them in like this if you need to, if you want him to have like a bow-legged stance for whatever reason. And then the feet, they can't tilt forward, but they can tilt back just for transformation. And they actually do have a dedicated joint for ankle tilt, which is nice, especially since that wasn't really, you know, that wasn't really the status quo yet when Animated were still coming out. So it's nice to see that. And then obviously, you know, if you had Laserbeak, that's what these pegs are for. Then Laserbeak could peg in there and you can kind of strum it or whatever. I don't have Laserbeak, so I can't really show that off, but you know, still pretty cool. I love the how the wheels become like this like speaker design along with the little other speakers on his backpack there. I think that that's a really cool look, and is a fun thing to incorporate into a Soundwave design because, you know, obviously sound-based stuff. I love the chest plate that has the like tape deck thing there, even though he doesn't turn into a tape deck. But yeah, no, just looks pretty cool in terms of comparisons in this mode. Again, just for that standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see it's a little bit shorter than him. He was kind of a short deluxe for the time, but the animated toy line in general had kind of large-ish figures compared to, like, you know, other things that were coming around that time, and certainly compared to you know, modern figures. So he was a pretty short deluxe at the time, but now just kind of average, so that kind of works out. For other animated comparisons, here he is with the only other two mainline animated figures that I have, with Deluxe Swoop and Activator's Ratchet. So, you know, for whatever that's worth, that's what he looks like with a couple other animated figures. And then here he is with some other versions of Soundwave. We'll get the War for Cybertron one back, the other War for Cybertron one, the toy line War for Cybertron versus the media War for Cybertron, Bumblebee movie Soundwave from Studio Series, and then the Core Class Kingdom Soundwave, just so you can see what he looks like with some other Soundwave designs there. I would like to eventually get a you know, a version of that Transformers Prime Soundwave, but that one's really hard to find on the aftermarket for a decent price, unfortunately. I have handled that figure. It's a great figure, but you know, I usually I don't go out of my way to collect, you know, like things from Animated or like Prime characters that I have other versions of, but I do like having a nice little like Soundwave collection and seeing the different designs that he's had through different shows, at least, you know, of the ones that I like anyway. But yeah, no, not a whole lot else to say about him. A really cool figure. Obviously, I'm going to want to try to get Laserbeak at some point because I feel like that's a huge part of the identity of this figure, but still, it's nice to have him. I wish the knees were tighter. I wish that the shoulders had slightly better articulation, but either way, it's just a really cool little figure. I love the vehicle mode. I think that that's, you know, one of my favorite parts about this figure. Weirdly enough, I always feel like one of his legs is like a little bit longer than the other one. If you can see, it feels like this leg is a little bit longer. I don't know exactly how the joints are working out that way, but when I place him down, it always feels like he either wants to lean a little bit this way or I have to like bow this one leg out a little bit. Not a huge deal, but just, you know, something I noticed. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Animated Deluxe Class Soundwave.